Tonight on Enough Said with KFAN Radio's Dan Barreiro.
Games. It has nothing to do with
You're being
naive.
By the way, that's the appeal for a lot of people.
The Blues won that last game. Why? Because they stopped playing stupid. I'm a belief guy, unfortunately. I'm not proud of it. I'll just say this. This is an agent and a player who deserve each other.
Attorney and HoldingCourtPodcast.com's Ron Rosenbaum.
I don't know about your background. My whole background are all criminals in my family.
I've got Spaniards in mine.
We have to apologize for everything.
Yes.
No, we don't. All the feedback I've got is you don't need these two ugly guys. You need the beautiful woman with the headset. But
and executive producer Lori Fisher, who's keeping these guys on track and deciding when enough is said.
End of story.
Okay,
in
enough
this case,
said with that.
We're not confused young men. They were not easily influenced. These are focused men who are intent on joining a terrorist organization by any means possible.
You know, Ron, I had a conversation the other day with a guy named Michael Hurley, who was a CIA officer about 30 years, worked in the Middle East, and also does a lot of counter-terror conversation. And he said what we're seeing has been security in this country's worst nightmare for a long time. The idea of folks who are individuals who are over here, going over there, being potentially radicalized, and either staying over there to wreak havoc or potentially coming back here. And his point was, this is only the beginning. This is not going away anytime soon. And I think one of the things we should discuss is the notion that this is all about, the governor spoke about, for example, jobs and making sure that disaffected youth don't get too marginalized. And the dirty little secret here is, that's a good idea, I think we're all for that, but the dirty little secret here is that not everyone who goes in this direction is marginalized at all, including, I think, two, in this case, had jobs at least, security jobs.
Listen, the lure of adventure and excitement for young people is maybe beyond anything jobs or all these other, listen, it's great to have community involvement, it's great to have jobs, it's great to be working with the leaders, but at the end of the day, Dan, this is still a law enforcement issue, and the only way we solve terror cases, drug cases, mob cases, is with informants. And I think law enforcement understands that. Listen, we have to do everything. We don't want to be like Europe. We don't want to isolate these people. But I'm telling you that for young men, this is the kind of videos we've seen of people getting their heads cut off. May make us sick, but ISIS knows what they're doing. This is very attractive stuff to a certain number of people.
It is, and I was speaking to a source about this, that as hard as it is, again, for us to accept this, in that world, this is like, you know, we have people in our country say, I want to serve in the Army, I want to serve in the Navy, whatever, I want to be patriotic. They view it, regardless of how delusional you may think they are, the same way, and that's the fight. And as you say, you can use the tools that were used in this case, including the remarkable fact that they're using
wiretapping and
Facebook.
informants.
You got to have, but you absolutely have to have intelligence on the ground. I know that's a big bone of contention within the community, but how do you otherwise going to get the information? You have no choice. It's the obligation to continue to investigate, and you got to have people on the ground to help you do it.
If people don't get them jobs, education. In the 60s, kids from the best schools with the best education decided the best way they could be patriotic is to join the Weather Underground or blow up buildings. We need informants. We need typical law enforcement techniques. Granted, we need all the other things, but at the end of the day, this is a serious situation, and it has to be dealt with the way we've dealt with other serious situations.
Okay, on that note, you guys, let's move on to violence in the NHL, especially right now with the Wild in the playoffs. I know you guys want to talk about the possibility of eliminating fighting on the ice. Dan?
Well, look, here's my stand on it. It's played out in the Blues Wild series a little bit, where the Blues for early in the series, before they got smart and actually just concentrated on playing hockey,
when they gooned it up,
they got stupid. And some people think, you know, we've gone far enough eliminating or trying to get rid of some fighting, but this is part of the fabric of the game. And here's my position. Keep it. If you want this nonsense at the end of games that is not grandfathered in any other sport, go ahead, but don't pretend then that you have any real credibility as a sport. People always say with hockey, well, why isn't it as popular? This is one of the reasons, Ron. If you want to keep it in, keep it, But this crap has nothing to do
Well, first of
with
all, that's
sports.
not why it's not popular. It's not popular because most people aren't like us and live in some polar area where there's ice all the time. That's why it's not popular. The people who run the league and the Players Association don't want to get rid of fighting because they know, listen,
It's
all
jobs.
kidding aside, the most exciting, and people look in the eye and they'll be honest and tell you, the most exciting moment in a hockey game is either when the home team scores a goal or when two goons face
Then
up.
why
You
don't
see
we-
the players smashing
Then
their
let's
stick
endorse
on
it.
the wood. The crowd's going bananas.
Right.
They know very well that a lot of casual hockey fans would not watch, but for violence.
Ron, you put this out on Twitter last night, and Jacob Nelson said, supporting eliminating fighting in the NHL, I would say no. But it seems like it is eliminating itself with less and less fights as time moves on.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not like it used to be.
No, it's
but
definitely
they're
not
never. Listen, if they wanted to make the rule like other sports that you're gone like forever if you do this, they don't because they want fighting because they know, Dan.
but
this
then-
is part of the appeal.
Then be honest and admit that. They play it both ways. They go, no, we've got information about concussions. We've got to be more concerned with player safety. And then on the other hand, they won't take the last step. And I would respect them
Well, I'm
more
shocked to
if
see
they
there's
said they're
gambling
telling the
going on.
truth.
Come
Tell the
on,
truth.
let's get real. Do you expect people who run these leagues to be honest? Because they've always been so honest before, right?
I'm just saying. You're at some point. In all honesty, don't you want to take the next step? And obviously they don't because
What
they
is
don't
the
trust
next
their fans.
step?
It's like every other sport: football, basketball, well, baseball, except when the Kansas City Royals are playing,
Right.
because they apparently want to join the National Hockey
Apparently.
League. To not allow the crap that took place at the end of these games. It has nothing to do with
You're
performance.
being
By the way-
naive.
By the way,
That's the appeal for a lot of people.
the Blues won that last game. Why? Because they stopped playing stupid
Well,
and
they
actually
might be-
got back to hockey.
It might
Okay,
actually be a
enough
better
said.
team.
Enough said, guys, on that one. Let's move on to Mackenzie's story. A little 10-year-old girl in Shakopee who invited a bunch of kids to her birthday party. No one RSVP'd or they canceled on her last minute. Everyone came together. Hundreds of people came in support of Mackenzie last weekend in Shakopee. Even Marquise Gray, a former Gopher, and Charles Johnson, a Viking wide receiver, showed up to her birthday party. My question to you guys, who does not RSVP to a little girl's birthday party, especially one who already has enough struggles in her life?
Well, I mean, this is a remarkable story. Everybody has commented on it. Everybody has pretty much seen it. And you absolutely feel for the youngster, Mackenzie. You feel for her parents. And I appreciate greatly what her mom tried to do here, to make a point. Everybody stood tall in terms of reacting after no reaction at the front end. However, here's my one concern, Ron. My concern is whether, to me, this is only a really good story if it leads somewhere. After the adrenaline of, 300 people showing up at the party is gone, are people going to still give her a chance to connect? Will they learn the message of it, or will they go back to the same place they were, which is maybe fear, confusion, not knowing exactly how to communicate here? Because that's where it becomes a real feel-good story.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's a wonderful story. This girl broke your heart. She's on there literally on camera saying, none of my friends want to go. The designated bad guys here are the parents who didn't RSVP. I don't know. Maybe they didn't know the kid. Maybe they didn't get the email, whatever. I find it hard to believe that you wouldn't RSVP.
At least.
But I totally agree with you. Kids can be really cruel. And so now that we've got the designated bad guys, what happens on the day she returns from school? Maybe she's even going to be more ostracized. I love what her mom did. Her mom was a hero. Her mom, I mean, you couldn't have a better parent. But like you, I agree. It's an important and a positive story if it makes this girl's life better in the long run. And I fear for that.
And you do feel for the parents who are dealing with this, like you say, daily, and a lot of them who they weren't in this narrative. They weren't part of this story. How you deal with the challenges day to day. That's got to be, I can't even imagine. I'm sure I don't even comprehend how difficult that can be. You know, Ron, there's times when it's that cliche, be careful what you wish for. There's that program on PBS that helps famous people discover.
Lower your voice a little when you say PBS. I want to hear
a little more
slight note
study.
of seriousness. Yes.
Well, you know, the idea is we're going to find out where you come from. And man, there's some great feel-good stories. Sometimes you find out that, you know, you had a great-great-great-great-grandpappy who was a miracle doctor who saved 65 lives.
First of all, you don't find that out. Big celebrities find that out.
That's exactly it. But occasionally, it goes perhaps the wrong way. And you find out something that isn't going to make you smile and isn't going to bring a tear to your eye because you're filled with joy. It's because you're a bit embarrassed. And in the case of your guy, Ben Affleck,
yes, he is my guy.
It was discovered that way back when, somebody in Ben's family was a slave owner. And somehow, I'm sure it was accidental.
Totally.
That did not make the final cut on the PBS special with Henry Louis Gates. And there's been some controversy about, well, was that an accident? Or was it maybe more purposeful in that was something Ben didn't want out there, and suddenly it disappeared?
Well, first of all, we found out that it wasn't an accident from our good friends the North Koreans.
Who we always love.
Who just happened to be hacking Sony and found out that Henry Louis Gates said, Henry Louis Gates is a big Harvard professor, and, you know, he's completely on the level, obviously. So he says, I got a little problem. Ben Affleck's got slave owners in his background, and he's a megastar. He doesn't want us to mention it.
What do we do?
Sony says, stay out of it. Don't mention it. By the way, but it's going to be a little embarrassing if people find out. Well, now people find out. First of all, what arrogance to not want the world to know who your ancestors. Who cares if 6 generations ago Ben Affleck's family?
Ben did put out a Facebook posting this week saying, I didn't want any television show about my family to include a guy who owned slaves. I was embarrassed. The very thought left a bad taste in my mouth.
Well, yeah, I mean, it would, I guess, but here's it's interesting because it's PBS, but here's where they're still stuck in the star machine.
PBS.
Star machinery.
Okay.
To make that show work, even on PBS, you got to have stars. And so the dirty little secret on a lot of the interviews that are done and a lot of the shows that are done involving megastars like Ben Affleck is, we kind of got to defer to them, even if we say we're different because we're PBS and we're in academia. And so in the end, what happens?
Let me ask you a dumb question. Did this maybe think that some of the other big celebrities' backgrounds may not have been as clean as we would like them to believe? I don't know about your background. My whole background are all criminals in my family.
I've got Spaniards in mine.
Well, that's okay. Spaniards
I don't think
are
they're
okay.
criminals, I think. It is kind of funny that, as I said, when somebody, and Ben is, you know, sort of the guy who is the known lefty who sort of wants it all out there, but suddenly when it's about him, and as you say, it's really not about him. I don't know that he needs to apologize.
Who cares?
Right? I don't think anybody's asking for any money. I don't think. So let it go. If you're going to do it, if you're going to open this door, you're going to have to open it wide, or you look worse now.
But okay, it is. Let's let it go there. Let's move on to free-range kids. It's a big movement right now. It's kind of the opposite of helicopter parenting. A family is in trouble right now for letting their 6 and 10-year-old go to the playground back and forth on their own, even though they showed them how to do it. My question to you guys, are we depriving our kids of how we grew up when my mom said, just come home in 2 hours?
Yes. I mean, first of all, my mom said, don't come home, okay? I mean, that's the way I grew up.
Which we all understand.
I mean, I sympathized. She did have a point. But in all due respect, the World War II generation of parents who went through the Depression understood that, you know what? Our whole life is not devoted to spending every moment with Tom and John and Bobby and whatever to make sure that they never have a bad moment in their life. And I think to a certain extent, we're raising generations of kids who expect there'll never be a problem. And you know what? Isn't the crime rate even lower today than it was then?
You hit on a key part of this thing. Part of the problem is cable news. Because cable news will take a story about a child disappearing, which happens and is awful.
But it happened then.
But they'll turn it into, they'll give you the impression that there's some bad guy lurking around every corner. I looked up the stat. There's a greater chance that your child is going to be killed in an equestrian accident than kidnapped.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is, as bad as it is for people, that's no consolation to people it happens to, but I do think part of this is, the helicopter parenting is this belief that there's somebody lurking around every corner. I've got to protect my kid because I just saw that show and it was just an awful situation, and that breeds the idea of, where are you? No, you can't go here. You can't go there. And then you have some parents who say, like you, wait a minute. I want to foster some level of independence in them, and you're going to tell me, you got cops in the case in, was it Maryland, who've twice now
with a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old going to the park. It's not like they were going to a pool hall.
And they know exactly
where
they're going.
Ron,
they're going from one route to the other.
Twitter last night, and Douglas Schroeder said, we need more free-range kids and fewer people trying to parent each other's children. It's safer than it was years ago.
Well, I'll give you an example. I was in Lund's the other day, and it wasn't a little kid. It might have been 7 or 8, throwing a tantrum. And the mother just standing there looking at him, and the mother looks, well, he's like this. Well, my dad would have said, he may be like this today. He's not going to be like this in 15 minutes, I can tell you. It's almost like people are afraid of their children. They're so fragile that even the most minor kind of discipline, any problem, we've got to avoid it. And you know what? If we have another depression, I don't think this is the way you raise kids.
And all of that does what? It actually breeds greater fragility. I mean,
it does.
That's the thing. It doesn't give them any chance to be prepared. We're not asking them to throw them into the middle of the street.
No, they're
on
going
a
to the
highway
park
and say, fend for yourself.
No,
but it should not be that big of an issue.
This is the problem. It's exactly that.
Your job isn't to sniff out every little thing that is about the Reds and put it out there for every other guy to hear. It's not your job. You want me to be candid with you? I've been candid with you. I talk to you guys like men. I tell you what's going on with the team. I tell you how I'm feeling about it as candidly as I can. And then this.
Well, I think there were 77 bleeps.
Which is a record that amount of time.
Well, we can use our imagination which those bleeps were.
I think we don't need to have much.
Do we have to apologize for everything?
Yes.
No, we don't. This is baseball. To me, it's like there was no crying in baseball. The only difference between now and when Billy Martin and Ralph Houck and even Sam Mealy, the sainted Sam Mealy, the 65 Twins manager, this is how they talk.
Jerry Burns.
Jerry Burns, this is like minor.
This is his language.
I mean, it's baseball, for God's sakes. We have to be so sorry for everything we say. He's mad. Who cares?
I don't care about the bleeps.
This isn't a church or a synagogue.
I'm a bleep guy, unfortunately. I'm not proud of it. But the bleeps aren't the issue. The delusion is the issue. Does this guy think he's in Little League? Reporters daring to say, my job is to not take care of the team. My job is supposed to be to glean information.
But you're talking about the content.
Yes.
Okay, who cares about the content?
Well, the content.
He did sort of say he was sorry. He said he tweeted via the Reds Twitter feed. In my pregame conversation with reporters yesterday, I used wholly inappropriate language to describe the media coverage of our team. While I stand by the content of my message, I am sorry for the choice of words.
He apologized for the wrong thing, Ron.
Well, yes, I agree. I agree with that.
I'm with you on the bleeps.
He didn't go to the Columbia Journalism School. He doesn't necessarily have to understand. Listen, there's always an antagonistic relationship. Unless you're Joe Torre, between the media and the manager. Isn't that some of what makes it fun? Billy Martin throwing tantrums, all these guys. This is the entertainment business, Dan. It's not the religion business.
It sounds like you want fighting in baseball, too, and you want expletives, and you want all this stuff. I'm saying, look.
Don't attack me, Dan.
Have some idea of what you're into. You can agitate back on it because
Why do you care?
Because this is journalism 101. There's not another manager in baseball who would argue about this. Maybe some football coaches because they're known to be paranoid. But the idea
By the way,
that you're
is
trying
this
to
worse than Bill Belichick, who treats the press like they're dogs? He won't talk to them. At least this guy shows his emotion.
But what did he expect them to do? I mean, what is he look? He's talking about. You're affecting the competitive advantage in baseball.
It's idiotic. I agree.
I know we could go on and on about Brian Price, but we got to get to the lightning round.
Oh, good.
Quick questions, quick answers. First up, Adrian Peterson's agent posts a picture of a Vikings jersey, and he's wearing a Buccaneers hat. Dan.
I'll just say this. This is an agent and a player who deserve each other. And if this is the idea of here's how I'm going to strategize and rattle cages and get Vikings management to move on trading him.
He's doing the opposite.
It couldn't be more moronic.
Correct.
And I mean, you're my agent. I don't think you would have show up in, wearing the gear of another radio station.
The agent's job is to make the player look better.
Okay.
He makes
Not
him
worse.
look worse.
Okay, next up, new Enough Said viewer tweets. You don't need the woman with the headset. Love the show. Ron?
Yeah.
All the feedback I've gotten is you don't need these two ugly guys. You need the beautiful woman with the headset. But, what do you think?
Well, I'll tell you what.
Do we keep Lori or do we get rid of her?
I will point out someone also tweeted, though, that I should follow you guys around all the time and cut you off more often.
Yes,
Well, there is
that
something
makes
to
sense.
I vote for giving you one more week to finally, figure it out.
We've
And then
only
after
got
that,
2
there's
more
no-
weeks, by the way.
That's true.
Okay, last up, people's most beautiful woman in the world for 2015, Sandra Bullock. Dan, what do you think?
Well, I look, beauty, kind of use the cliche, eyes of
Yes.
the beholder. But what I do like is it's kind of refreshing to not have the woman name be 22. I kind of like that aspect. I don't know if they're trying to make a statement, but I kind of like that. You go ahead, Ripper.
Well, I'm not as politically correct as you. She's fine, but you know what?
She's fine.
She's not the most beautiful girl in the world.
Beauty
Woman,
is
I'm sorry.
more than skin deep.
Okay, on that note, that's enough said
can
for
use
tonight.
that.
Well, I don't know if it's more than skin deep or not, because that's
Sometimes
rather
it is.
cliche.
That's very true, too.
Exactly. It's kind of hard to say, but.